All right, let's sound the bell and then we can start our minute of mindfulness, okay? Let's pull up this. Do you see? Today is session 2. We're going to pretty much the same agenda. All right, they're going to sound the bell and then we can have our minute of mindfulness. We can get going. All right, today we have a very special event just happened a couple of days ago. So when we have our minute of mindfulness, we can also use this at we call it the noble silence. So when you have the noble silence, all your energy, all your concentration, your efforts, you can transfer the energy, collective energy from our group to Brian. So hopefully that his soul can find enlightenment. Okay, with that, just have a minute with Thầy and focus your energy, and all we have, just think about all the positive and all the wonderful things. Thank you. So we have the warm-up exercise today, and the warm-up exercise today, you should know by now, Thầy always want you to do something physical, but today we're not going to do anything physical, so I'm purposely do something a little different today, so to give you a chance to not be too physical today. And this is what we call the breathing technique. The breathing technique is something very important because to train our vocal cord, you know, public speaking or when we be inspirational speakers, it's all about our voice, right? Our voice carry a lot. And when you think about our voice, it's really an instrument. If anybody learned singing or anybody learned anything about the vocal cord, it's an instrument that have both air and a cord. When you look at instruments like guitars or violin, those are we call that a string instrument because they have strings, even though the Vietnamese đàn tranh, you know, the 36 strings. But also you have things like flute or trumpet or saxophone, so those are we call air because you blow air and it makes sounds. But our vocal cords is both. That's a very interesting thing, right? Because you do need to have, you can feel the vibration when you keep your hand right by your throat, and when you talk, you feel the vibration, right? And then when you talk, you need to have air. So to have a powerful voice, you need to train it. You need to train how to inflate your stomach, not your chest. Because if you take it, everybody taking a deep breath, and if you take your deep breath with your chest, you will feel your chest kind of tense up, right? And that's not good because when you tense up, and the next thing you know, your throat and your shoulder will be tense up. But if you learn to take stomach in, you take a breath in with your stomach inflated, just like the singers. That's what the singing, you know, all the singers, they learn this technique. They learn how to take in with your with their stomach, or we call the diaphragm breathing. You inflate your stomach instead, then your chest still pretty light and your chest still very, very flexible. So it's not restrict your vocal cord. So that's very important to know when we breathe in be a public speaker, we will learn to breathe with our stomach, right? And the first thing I want all of you try to do is just hum the happy birthday song. We hum, we don't sing. So that means you close your mouth, but you hum it, because that will make your voice a lot warmer, because the air will be in there and it gives all the vibration. So that's a really, really good exercise before they hit the stage. These are the exercise, the 3 exercises I always do. So the first thing I do the hum happy birthdays. Everybody, we together, we just close your lips and just hum, take in the deep breath, inflate your stomach, and we sing the happy birthday. We hum the happy birthday song for as long as we can. Slowly, we can do like 20, 30 seconds, but when you're good, you can do this, like you can drag it out for an hour. So it's like, that means your ability to take more air in will be more and more and more, and make you a better speaker, okay? So everybody taking a deep breath, relax, chest, shoulder, everything relax, and we hum the happy birthday together, okay? Right. So if you do that and you start speaking, you will see your voice is at least a couple dB lower, because now it's a lot of warm, right? It's very warm air. 2 more exercises that we do, we exaggerate these 5 vowels. So we're going to make fish face. That like we make our face like a fish, and we say all these vowels one at a time, very slowly. Ah. Take a breath. Now the next letter, E. Next one, I. Next one, O. And last, U. Remember, you gotta make sure your face, these are the warm-up exercises, all the muscles in the faces, right? So that's why the more we exaggerate, the more we can make a fish face, then the more the exercise, the muscle can warm up. And the last one, we call imagine you chewing gum. We don't chewing gum, sometimes they chew gum for real. If we don't want, because gum also stimulate your saliva producing in your glands and keep your mouth, your throat dry, because when you're nervous, you feel that your mouth really tense up. So that's why when you do this often, it trains your saliva produce, because as a speaker, you don't want your mouth to be dry. That would be horrible, because then your instrument, the wind would blow through a wet channel is different, it blow through a dry channel is different. So that's why we do want to make sure our mouth is really moist. And the way we do that, we have to train to our saliva glands, release all the saliva. And the best thing to do that, you do chewing gum. Imagine you chewing gum, you can close your mouth, and then you can exaggerate that chewing gum, gesture. Wonderful. All right, so with that, we're going to start our training today. So if you do this breathing techniques every day, you can do it early in the morning before you go to bed. Yoga is another good exercise because you have good posture, and it really help you with the breathing technique gently, right? I mean, we do a lot of strength training, we can do kickboxing, cardio, body pump, whatever. Those are more like strong, and you don't really see focus much on your breathing, but yoga is one of the exercises that really help you have a good posture and good breathing technique, and that's really good. We have not get into the body language lesson yet, but all of these are ease you in and start working on more than just writing the speech, because that's just content. There's a lot of things, 97%, 93% of what we do is nonverbal. So that's why it's very important to know about all of these things. All right, the next thing, I'm going to go to the content. I'm not quite sure what happened to my assistant today. I have not talked to him the last couple of days, but then we make sure. There are two frameworks that I'm going to share with all of you today. And this is when you write your speech, make sure that you try to follow these framework. The framework is the structure that can allow you to start develop. The first we call the hero journey. The hero journey is something very typical. When you watch a Disney movie, it's a very classic Disney movie, they always follow the journeys framework, meaning they will introduce a character and they introduce what kind of problem that this person have. And the more you can make this problem related to everybody, we call empathy. And then the viewers or the audience will connect with you right away. So that's why it's very important in your introduction of your character. You need to define the problem. That's the first task. But the second task is how do you build empathy so the listener can start say, I can relate it to this story because I can see myself. The best storyteller is not only tell your story, but you want to make sure the audience say, hey, this is my story as well. Because when you can make that connection, that's the best that you can do as a storyteller, right? And the next thing is, of course, if you just tell the person and you make connection, but you don't show there's a struggle, there's some challenges, there's some issues, then the human nature, the brain will start tune you out, because we are human nature. We always train to be sparked by fear, by something that negative, something is bad, and somehow the fight and flight in us really connect with the struggle. So you have to introduce the struggle right away, right? What is the fear, what is struggle that we have? And while we're doing that, the transition to the last arc of the story journey is that you have to offer the solution, and they have to have a happy ending, because you want to make sure that you're uplifting people instead of give them a downer. So by the time they listen to your speech, they feel like, oh my God, the sky is falling. That's not good, because it's really hard to palate into the call to action. If people are happy, if people see the result, if people see something positive, then the call to action will have a lot more effective, way. Let's do a very quick, because I know that Phoebe sent all of you to Thai, because eventually she wants you to be able to sell this like EB5, investment or other investment opportunity, or even when you go out to do a fundraise. You have to establish right away. Let's say, hey, Vietnam right now is very unstable. There's a lot of political changes. There's a lot of new rule changes. So the situation in Vietnam right now is fairly unstable. And you introduce a specific character, like, okay, this lady X or this gentleman Y, within the matter of a few months, lost everything because the government changed or whatnot, and there's some impact, and then they confiscate, or they say, hey, this person took bribery, and things get changed pretty quick. So you introduce character, you introduce problem right away. And then you can say, what is the struggle? Now, all of a sudden, for 20, 30 years of, dedicated working, everything is vanished. All of your assets got confiscated, or, your family all of a sudden overnight, or his or her family overnight completely have no place to go. And they don't really know what to do. And they have all of the fear not what will happen to them next. They say, but then if you can have a green card, or if you invest in EP5, then you have the opportunity to have a second citizenship in America, and this will allow you to be able to migrate some of your asset or some of your hard work, hard-earned money, instead of dedicate to your children or your family, disappear. And if you engage in some of this activity, or if you invest in some of the property, you will have a condo, you have a house, you can have a unit or whatever. So you offer them a solution, and I say, okay, if you're interested in this, talk to us, and here's the number to call, or talk to one of our EB5 expert consultant, right? So you define a character, you define the problem, and you give them a solution. It's very, very typical in the we call the hero journey. The second technique, this is something that is really interesting that I want to introduce to you too, because I know some of you may do fundraisings. So this is a very good example that we call the second technique. And this technique we call it's a SCR. SCR is a very common technique that all the professional consultant and all the main company, people like Bond, this is Boston Consulting Group, this is Bond Consulting, and all of these Anderson, all of the high-end consultant that charge you $5,000-$10,000 when they help you craft the method and craft a solution. They always follow what we call the SCR solutions framework. State the situation, what the complication, and how do you solve it, right? And a very good example to this, let's say, they introduce about BuildASchool Foundation, and I would say, I'm 16, I come down to the fishing village in Cambodia, and I met this 8-year-old boy. His name is Min. He's completely illiterate. So I set the situation where I'm at, who I'm with, and why this is a challenge. I'm really surprised. He's 8 years old. He's completely illiterate. So I say, Min, you're 8 years old. How come you don't know how to read? So Min took me outside of his hut, and this is down the Mekong River Delta, and he told me, brother, can you look around? Do you see any school? Do you see any teacher? He's absolutely correct. Come out in the mid-80s, you see nothing but water, and even more water. Right? So I introduced the situation and complicated. So I said, go get me a newspaper or a book, and I will teach you how to read. So we start saying it. But after 2 nights of working by the candlelight, all of a sudden, the third night, my boat came, and I have to hop on and go on with my escape attempt. Therefore, I feel so unfinished because I didn't finish teaching men how to read. So now I introduce complication. I gotta go and escape Vietnam, and I cannot fulfill the promise of teaching this little boy how to read, And the last one is that, but even when I arrived in America after 3 years in the refugee camp, the vow to return and build school was still always with me. After 3 decades long of struggle and achieve the American dream, after I achieved the American dream, I now in the position I come back, and 31 years later, I built my first school for 52 kids in Hayang. And since then, in 7 years after, I built 99 more. So that's the very quick and short to introduce a speech about BuildASchool Foundation. But I don't just talk about the foundation, I talk about the story, I talk about the promise, the complication, and I talk about the solution. Okay. To demonstrate the idea of the hero story, Thầy was original think about introduce the story of Golly Lee to you, and I forgot to mention it. She came to America at 10 years old, didn't know how to read and write. So I introduced the person and the situation, the hero and the challenge. Right? I still remember vividly, she had to use her thumbprints when she got to immigration because she didn't know how to write. But even in the ghetto of San Diego, she always make the promise to herself. She got to get out of the ghetto. She got to avoid teenager pregnancy. She got to avoid, death by gang fight, and she got to make a name for herself. And through dedication to hard work, she graduated at the very top of her university. When I got to a master's degree, and today she's one of the top producer in the mortgage business here in San Diego, and she produced the American Dream to thousands and thousands of other people by helping them buying their first properties. So those are a very quick example or demonstration how you can use the framework of we call the journeys, the hero story, or when you do briefing or something more in the business related, hey, we use the SCR framework. SCR would be more suitable in the business environment. Okay, so those are the 2 frameworks that I introduced pretty quick. the journey story, you kind of like got a snippet of it from the last meeting. So today, they will try to listen to your story, and these are the 3 steps that they will try to listen. And that's okay if your story not really fit into this mold yet, but when you go home and rewrite your story, make sure you have to adapt to one of these framework, either the journey hero story or we call it the SCR framework. Okay. So with that, let me pull up my phone, and we still try to do the practice speak within the 3 to 5 3 minutes ballpark. So they will give you a green at 3. I mean, this they will give this at 1. Sorry, this is a 2, a yellow at 2, and then we'll give you a red at 3. And you know that by you see the red, you have about 30 seconds to wrap it up. Not quite sure what happened to my assistant. Hopefully everything's okay with her. But anyway, okay, who wants to go first?
Hi.
All right, Sunny. When Sunny go, then Ben will evaluate Sunny, and when Ben go, then Sunny, make sure you will evaluate Ben. Okay.
Hey, just 1 second before I start. In one of the email that your assistant sent out, I thought it says like this 3 to 5 minutes this time.
Yeah, she make a mistake,
Oh,
and
okay.
that could be my mistake. That's why last night we sent out they try to be 3, but today we only have 2. So if you do it in 5 minutes, that's okay. Now, if you do 5 minutes, then they will give you this one at 3, this one at 4, and this one at 5.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, the 5 minutes will be your graduation. Right now, I just want you to focus on something short, and then we have opportunity to listen and also to critique.
Okay.
Okay. So you prefer 5 minutes today, Sunny?
Yes.
Okay.
Around.
We can handle it. All right. So they will give you 3, 4, and 5 instead of 1, 2, and 3. Okay. Okay.
Whenever.
Are you ready? All right. Let they turn off the share screen for now. We don't need this. And then make sure you listen to his speech. You will use the sandwich technique to evaluate him afterward. Okay. All right. Sunny, what's the title of your speech, Sunny?
Yes. The poem's called "Standing on the Grave of My Ancestors."
Standing on the grave of my ancestor. I'm going to teach you how to be the MC and introduce a speaker too. All right. Standing on the grave of my ancestors. Speaker Sanita, standing on the grave of my ancestor.
Swear it was a 15 by 15 cobblestone platform sleeping in a field of invading overgrowth. Where? 1954. Raised above the earth in a stride's length, miniature palaces for farmer dynasties. When did this sacred ground turn to fallow land for rice paddies and cows? Standing on the grave of my ancestors, I wonder why. The concrete road from which I came was cracked with years of disrepair, power lines imposing like giant fencings in the sky, plastic bags, rotten sewers spewing sludge into ponds of turbid water, penetrated by those same power lines. The sky, overcast with tears of my ancestors, hung dark and low, for if blood and water, why have we diffused through the 5 continents like rivers flowing from the mountaintops towards some foreign lakes and seas? Standing on the grave of my ancestor, I look into the horizon, rolling hills, countless marble monuments for normal men, honest men who founded generations on fertile land. Standing on the grave of my ancestors, I felt the wind of change against my cheek. Millions of people left their farms, millions more months to the city, standing on the grave of my ancestors. I saw a couple walking hand in hand in a garden of dreams, and a soft kiss caressing a mother's womb. A soldier headed off for war. Kneeling on the grave of my ancestors, I heard the old whispers of history. Barefoot boys playing football in the field, waiting for the dads to come home on New Year's Day. Bombshells, landmines, gunpowder, smoke, burning fallow grounds to scorch earth. In my mind, I see a widowed mother barring a yoke against her bony shoulder day after day to feed 8 hungry mouths. The mountain springs to 8 different streams that diverge into creeks and rivers, 30 years in back crushing the labor. Walking on the grave of my ancestors, I looked around and found empty villages of stone pallets, forgotten, drowning under the weeds, carrying the weight of my ancestors. I felt time creeping up on me. Dreams pressed against the concrete ceiling, yellow by smoke and bio at the heart of this empire. Standing, I could hear the last breath draw near. Bullet wound too deep to heal, hoping the baby lives the day. Standing on the land foreign to my ancestor, I stopped seeing, hearing, smelling, feeling, tasting. Everything is plastic, nothing. Standing on the ground from which I came, the place where I will return. Dreams of yesteryear set aside for a meal's worth. The mountain springs of ordinary dreams eventually forgotten. I know I'm only here today because I have stood on the graves of my ancestors.
Take a minute to provide feedback for Sunny, and then also give Ben a chance to collect his thought before we give the evaluation. And we can use the chat to share. Okay, let's see. The minute is up. Ben, are you ready to give some feedback to Sunny? Go ahead, go.
Hey, Sunny. So the content of your work was really great. I love the title. I love the content by itself, but I wasn't sure if it's the mic problem or if it was you speaking because the sound was really muffled and I couldn't heard half of what you were saying. So, but I get the gist of the poem that you did, and it was a great poem.
Wonderful. Yes. Thầy totally concur. Thầy heard about 75%. I think the speaker, not very, the speaker is perfectly fine because I can hear it. It could be the mic, it could be the speaker. So make sure when you do it, not a live in person, test your equipment, right? And do the mic check, sound check. And that's something that a speaker is on our checklist. We definitely need to do that. So make sure that we can communicate clearly. Okay, nothing worse than you prepare such a wonderful poem. The title is so great. It really get my attention right away when I say standing on the graves of my ancestors. I say, wow, this got to be something interesting. This got to be something deep, really, really good. That insert more pauses toward the last minute or so. By the way, your speech is 3 minutes and 56 seconds, so almost 4. Toward the end, the last 30 seconds is good. You inserted a couple pauses and you slow down. When you cannot do a poem, it doesn't matter how much exciting, it really depends on the emotion, right? This poem is really, really deep, and then the pace has to be sometimes slower. So people, first of all, give people a chance to understand and catch up, because we cannot process information as fast as you do. You wrote this poem probably for months or sometimes for years. Like some speeches, they working on it for years. So I really internally known it well, but the audience will be listening to this for the first times. So they need more time to process. And the only way we do that, we have to insert pauses into it. And your poem allow a lot of pauses because the context of your poem is high and low, not constant fire like AK-47. So make sure you pay attention to that. The hand gesture, we not get there yet, but this is something good to know right now, since you seem to be very into this. The hand gesture, it have to have a purpose. Cannot just do it randomly, right? It's like when you say that in my mind, and you have to signal in my mind, and that's a perfect way to pause. Because when you say in my mind, now instead of speaking, instead of reading transmit the poem, you give people a signal to say in my mind and give them a chance to say, what's coming up next year? So pauses is extremely effective. In ours, it's a tool that we use them well. The thing I really love about you is that you took my comment and now you're appearing completely different. It's nothing much, but slick your hair and all these, and you appear, with the shirt and everything. It's look a lot more professional already. So those are the things that very simple, very easy, and now you're smiling too. So I can feel that you relax and you already say, hey, I'm fully prepared. I really know my material. Let's go. Good job. All right, good. Next, we're gonna have Ben.
Yes.
So Ben will deliver your speech. What's the title of your speech?
I walked in curious, I left unstoppable.
The simple way to MC a speaker, we give 2-3 pointers about why or something key things about the speakers. But the last part, we have to say the title, the name speaker, repeat the name of the speaker, then the title, and that really signal, okay, I'm done introducing you, the stage is yours. That's a very, very professional way. We don't just rambling on. So in this case, would be, I walked in curious, I walked out unstoppable. Ben Nguyen, I walk in curious, I walk out unstoppable.
Sometimes the most important journey you take isn't across the border across the world. It's across one summer. In the summer of 2017, I joined a 5-day, 4 nights boot camp outside of Hanoi in Haizeong. I was still in middle school, shy, unsure of myself, and honestly, I was struggling. My grades were low, I didn't have many friends, and I have no life direction. Most of the days, I was just drifting, zoning out from life. My parents signed me up, hoping that I would do better in school. I didn't choose it. I didn't even understand why I was there. I thought it was only a fun trip, a break, or maybe a chance to make new friends. But in reality, it wasn't just a camp. It was something deeper, something more meaningful, something I didn't see it coming. We weren't just playing games or doing team activities. We were learning to better time manage, how to focus, and how to be a better student, and most importantly, how to be a better human being. But The most important thing that I actually learned from it was to face myself. On one of the final nights, they had us sit in a silent room in this silent place. The light were low and the room was dark. There was soft and emotional music being played in the background. Even now, I can still remember and hear it in my head. We were told to close our eyes and reflect, and they told us, this is the most important person in your life. Look at them. Look at what you have put them through, their pains, their regrets, their futures, their suffer. How many times have you ignored this person, disappointed this person, and forgot to love this person? And in that moment, I broke down crying. That was the first time in my life I saw myself of the past 14 years and everything I had done and of the things I didn't have the chance to do. The laziness, the excuse, the blaming, the time waste, and the biggest enemy I had to face was myself. After that section, we silently walked to the dining room and no one spoke. Everyone just sat there in silence, drifting in their thoughts. It was one of the quietest nights of my life. After the boot camp, things didn't magically change. My grades didn't suddenly shoot up, or my friends didn't treat me. They treat me the same. On the outside, I was still the same kid, the same 14 years old kid. But something changed inside me. I started thinking differently. I started realizing I didn't take control of my life. Then who will take control of my life? That's the summer I stopped blaming the world and start asking myself. That was the summer I told myself, you're better than this. The mind, one mindset that stayed with me ever since I carry to this day was be confident, be optimistic, and you'll get through with it. If I hadn't gone through that boot camp, I honestly don't think I would even be in the United States. And I would probably still be stuck in Vietnam, still drifting, still, I don't know, doing whatever, and still unaware of my full potential. So, no, I didn't leave the camp as a perfect student or a perfect son. I didn't leave w with a better GPA or a better reputation. I left with something far more powerful. I left, I left with a mirror, a promise to never look away from the mirror again. And because you can't truly grow until you face a person in the mirror. That summer, I walked in curious and I left unstoppable.
All right, take a minute to gather our thought. Thầy will give you the feedback first and give Sunny some time to ponder about the speech because Thầy have the ability to listen and can detect things a lot better. By the way, the time is 5 minutes and 12 seconds. So the time management is definitely, I don't know your intent to be a 5 minutes or not, but it's a lot longer than the 3 minutes that Thầy was envisioned. It
In
could
the
be
email, yeah, thầy, in the email it said
five. So
5 minutes,
shooting
so
for
I did
five.
a five
That's
minute.
okay. Then if that's the case, then your time is okay. All right.
Mhm.
Again, the title is very intrigued. Thầy will advise you with even the better title. I walk in curious, I walk out unstoppable is very good line, a little bit long for a title. The title always say the man in the mirror or something like that because the title need to be something under like 5 words or so we can cut it short. So I walk in curious, I walk out unstoppable. It's a really interesting summary of what your speech is all about, but even make more intrigued Because if we tell them everything, then there's no suspense elements anymore. But I say, the man in the mirror, people will have the I say, what is that, right? So make sure, play with it. It doesn't have to be tight, just recommend, because I really click when you say the man in the mirror, you use the mirror. I said, wow, this is very interesting. So if it was me, I would pick the man in the mirror. That would be something, because the man in the mirror implies not just the reflection in the mirror, but also it's a man. It's not a boy, right? It's different with a boy in the mirror. And this really jive with what you say. I walk in here, I walk out unstoppable. Or the other way, another thing people might say is that I walk in as a boy, I walk out as a man, right? Or I came as a boy, but I return as a man. So all of those expressions is really intrigued. Be careful with your eye movement. Your eye dark left and right and everywhere, okay? I know it's hard to stare at the camera, but we have to learn to speak to the camera instead of speaking to the screen. The screen may be lower, but one thing that you got to make sure the screen may be behind your camera. So that's the trick. A lot of speakers, they look at the camera, but actually the screen is behind them. Right? So don't pay attention to Thầy or Sunny because you're supposed to convey. But when we do Zoom, we have to convey to the camera. That's how I will see your eye contact looking at me instead of looking down, looking left, looking right. A lot of information that Thầy think you can, same thing with Sunny, you can slow down. Figure out where do I speak fast, where do I need to slow down. All of the suspense, all of the epiphany, it cannot keep going at the same pace. It has to be slowing down so people can digest. I really like the ending you have. There's 3 things that I learned, right? And the 3 things I walk away from this camp, those are very powerful because the brain cannot process 5 minutes of information. But if you down select it to 3 things or 3 walkaways, then it help people a lot better. Your stories follow the journey, the hero journey very well. You define a person, you define the problem, and you have a solution. So the arch, we call it the arch. You introduce it and then reach the low point, and then you put them the high point. So that's what we call the journey story, or in business, we call the inflection point. You have the inflection point in your story. You introduce the character of a lost boy, enter this camp with all of these things, and then you start seeing a lot of doubt, you see a lot of stuff, but you read the epiphany and you return as the hero. So that's why we call the journey, the hero journey. Okay, you follow that arc really well. It's a lot of fine tuning. I will cut out probably 20 to 30% of your words, still 3 to 5 minutes. They cut out a lot of information, but I will slow down the story a lot. There's a certain happy moment that you can kick it up and keep it light hearted and fast paced, but other than that, slow down. Sunny.
Okay, yes. So first of all, like they say, I really like the resolution much better this time. Like I like how you sort of like laid out what you learned from the boot camp and the realization and the nuance that, oh, I'm not gonna like change overnight, but it's like a very optimistic like vision for the future. One thing though, like I was thinking about this earlier and I couldn't quite put my finger on what it is about it, but this time I felt like the climax, the build up to the climax was actually a bit weaker. And then now that Hey Jimmy said it, yeah, I think that's because there wasn't much emphasis on like the moments of climax. Like from the last speech, I remember like that moment of them like putting the mirror like right in front of you and you just like cried. That is very punctual and poignant. And I feel like, you know, I know it's very hard to like try to expand your speech, but I feel like something about that climax was lost this time around. So yeah, overall it's still very like emotional, very, very powerful speech. But yes, that is my takeaway.
Okay, all right. The challenge for our speaker is that as we practice, we know more about our speech, we start feeling, oh, it's not excited anymore. And that's when you know you don't have a good speech. Because if you have a great speech, you will never ever feel like, oh, I practiced this thing 100 times already, and now I feel bored. You have to commit to the message. You have to commit to the cause. You have to commit to whatever the story that you want to share. And you can wait to share to people. So even you work on for years, you still have that excitement in it, right? And that's really, really difficult. And then you know that because you're not, if you dig really deep and you say that this is the boot camp that completely changed my life, right? I can see the reflection, I can see the mirror, I can see the change. I can see the boy that walking in really timid and not sure what it's all about, but I'm leaving as a man because I'm grow up and I be successful in America. There's so many elements in yours that can make it so intrigued toward the end. I really like the statement that if I did not attend this boot camp, probably I'm still lost and wondering what to do next in Hanoi. Those are powerful statements, right? And those are the ones that you have to make sure the people get the chance to listen to it and to simmer it and to reflect, because they might say, I'm on the same boat. I'm in Vietnam right now. I'm kind of lost. I'm not sure what my future. Maybe I should sign up for this boot camp. Maybe I should call Bain to ask to be my mentor, right? So those are the things that we start inject in their mind. And you cannot do that if you don't give them time to pause and to reflect. Because if they have to, their mind have to say, I need to catch up what he's saying next, it's over. That's why sometimes in speaking we say less is more. That's what it meant. Less is more. You say less, but it meant more, and it gives people more time to say, hey, what I want to do with this information. Okay? Yeah. By the way, I did not really comment on Sunny's story at the arch, because you do have suspense, you do have climax. But it's a poem, it's really hard to, because the poem, you evaluate poem differently than a story, right? And the poem is so much emotion. The poem is all about connection and emotion. It's a lot more than telling a story. Either you try to sell a product, you try to sell a service, right? At the end of the day, that's all we do, right? We either sell a product or sell a service. So those are the things that's why they always, I understand the situation why you pick the poem this week, but next week I really want all of us come back to the story that you say, by the time I'm done 8 weeks with Jimmy, I have 5-minute speech I can deliver for the rest of my life, and I will be so proud every single time. Those are the focus that I want all of you to focus on, right? It has to be fine-tuning it from the opening to the body to the ending. It'd be like so awesome, and you continue to work it after 2 months with Thầy. Okay. All right. With that, let Thầy see if there anything else that Thầy want to share today. Let's go back to ours. Very good. I really see a vast improvement just in a matter of a week. That's exactly what I like to see. All right, we get to the point now that we can provide some feedback, and you can have some questions and things like that about what we learned today, or what other things that you say, hey, I really still unsure about what your comment or what exactly we need to follow up, and then Thầy will tell you what homework for session 3. Have anybody heard anything from Chị Sunny yet? Why Chị Sunny is not here? Okay. Just hope Chị Sunny is okay. All right. With that, let's take a quick moment to reflect on what we learned today and what question we have for Thầy. And we can start with Ben.
Can you elaborate more on your feedback, Thầy, where the suspension or the build-up that you were mentioning, or where to slow down, where to speed up?
Oh, I didn't have a chance to type what I really want to type for you, huh? Okay, when Thầy will make sure that they give you a written comment too, because they in the middle of the sentence, but they didn't send. All right, so for your speech, it have a major turning point, because when you're crying, when you start seeing the change in your life and you start seeing the confidence, those are the very strong emotional that a lot of people felt, and that's where I want you to focus on. When you crying, you have to tell people why you cry. You describe a little bit more the situation and what triggered that. Why we go into the camp and why we get to the point that we're crying. Because crying is an extremely strong emotion that we express as a human being, right? And for boys at 14, 15, crying is not something that you do very often. So you have to explore that a little bit more, right? Tell us more. Why? What hit you? What make you? What the situation? What are you thinking? What is the emotion that really turned you from just go to the summer camp and all of a sudden you cry, right? That's a very, very strong inflection point. Explore that more, right? I want to know more about that, right? Because you felt so grateful for all the sacrifice that your parents provided to you. You feel so grateful for people putting the camp together. You suddenly find from the last point now, you kind of have a direction where you want to go. Whatever that emotion, whatever that epiphany that strike in you, you got to explore that and you got to let us in. Okay? And the rest is just that, all of those stuff, because you get to the result and you get to the positive very well. You summarize in 3 points, you use the mirror as the image and as the metaphor, and you believe in yourself because somebody lost somebody really young at 14, 15, and all of a sudden you found the way, you found what exactly your purpose, you found what the direction that you need to go in life. Those are not many 15, 14, 15 years old boys or girls have. So I say those are the moment that we need to show them this is the inflection point, and that should be the focus of your journey hero journey. Okay, anything else from you, Ben?
So that story already used the hero, what was that?
Journey.
I already applied the hero journey and I don't have to fix anything other than my speed of speech, right, Thầy?
Yes, you apply the framework correctly. It doesn't mean you don't need to make it better. Okay, I just don't want people to think that, oh, Thầy say I'm okay, so therefore I can stop right here. No, we just apply the journey story. It's just the framework, but every single sentence, every single word, every single process, we need to start fine tuning it and make it better. But yes, the way you apply the story is already on point because it have the person, you have the issue, and you have the challenges, and then it's also have the inflection point, and then the result and the climax and all of that. It's have all of the elements already. Okay.
Thank you, Thầy.
Sure, no problem. All right, Sunny, feedback.
Yes, hồi nãy thầy nói anh bắt là focus on the emotional aspects of your story. So I noticed one of the things that's like tend to happen to me when I write like emotional stories is that when I practice it too much, I just lose it. I just lose the emotionally. So like how do I like get myself back to that focus?
That's a great question. Every single time that I share the moment that I lost my brother, I cried. And I start shaking my voice. I have an opposite issue because when you are a speaker and you start crying, your voice starts shaking and you cannot show that to the audience. It's perfectly okay to show emotion, but as a speaker, you have to control your voice, right? So what I apply the technique is that every single time I tell the story that in my escape attempt and my brother got shot and I couldn't save him because he fell in the water and then, he lost in the river, Gamal River. I still connect to that. I still relive that moment. Every single time I relive that moment. I don't just tell the story, I live it. I remember vividly how dark it is, how scary it is. I still can smell the fume from the burning, engine. I still can see the shatter of the glasses that got penetrated, got shot by bullet. I relive that moment. So all by emotion, it will coming back, because I don't just tell the story, but I live it. I live in it. So that's what you need to transform yourself into that moment, right?
Sorry. Do you relive the moment when you're also practicing the speech too?
Yeah. I get to the point that, because the problem with Thầy is to try to practice so I can control it and I don't cry. Because the minute you start have tears up, I have tears up all the time when I tell this story, but tears up is okay, but I don't let tears drop. It can ooze at my eye, people can see the anguish, you can see the pain in my voice and my face, but I stop before I get into the crying part, because if I sobbing, my voice will shake in, and I will have, or sometimes I do need to take a deep pause, because the emotion come back so much that I have to incorporate a long pause into my speech so I can gather myself and I take a deep breath. So those are the things that I understand with your speech, especially with the poem, Standing in the Grave of My Ancestor can trigger a lot of emotion. So you have to practice, and you have to be so passionate about that moment that you have to live that moment and bring all of that emotion back. When I practice in front of the TV, the camera, the emotion might be less, but the minute I hit it, and one thing is really, it's a secret that I share with all of you, to get the emotion from the faces of your audience. That will trigger you. Because if you focus too much on your emotion, you might not have it, but if you focus the anguish, when I make speeches, people cry. And I can relate to their feeling, and some of these things I connect to some of the faces that put their face and they gasp when they hear that I lost a brother that got shot and died in the river. I connect with that person. I pay attention to that face. And usually there's a few people on audience will have that strong emotion, and I transfer my connection, I connect with that person, and I can relive that moment very easily. Because a lot of your audience will hear your story for the first time, and they will have a very strong emotion connect to them.
Yeah, cảm ơn thầy.
Okay. Anything else? We have about a minute before. Oh, let thầy tell you. Oh, they have. I have time for my next meeting. Let me finish the thing with Ben. Ben, thầy có thể send con một cái note trong cái chat group của mình cũng được, okay? But thầy make a note here that thầy need to send cái comment to Ben. But right now you got my answer from your question, right? The minute from your crying, that's the moment I really want you to explore a lot more, okay? Let's extend it up for now. All right. What will be our next week? All right. So just recap, the first lesson we talked about how to use the talk to the hand to structure the speech, but we focus on the title and the wow opening, right? So those are the wow opening. Today we learned about the two framework, the journey of the hero or hero journey. We also learned the framework of what we call the SCR. Make sure that when you present it, follow this framework. For our next meeting, we start build up more in these two techniques, but we call to action. How do we have a very strong closing? How do we close it with emotion? How we close it with emotional intelligence? And what exactly do we want the audience to do with our information, especially if we provide what we call, when you do briefing, or we do speaking, or we do any presentation, it needs to fall either one of the purpose. You need to give them information, or you want them to take action, right? Sometimes it can be both, but usually it could be that we call informative brief or decision making brief. Decision does mean call to action. We want them to do something, and sometimes we just want to provide them information and we don't want them to do anything. Sometimes boss can say, hey, I really need to know about how to use AI or what new with AI. So those are more information. We need to have a very strong call to action. And for this one, I just give you a pretty quick image so it can trigger in your mind, hey, do you want to pick the red apple or green apple? You don't have to answer here. I will tell you why this picture can trigger a lot of things in people's mind. But this is what I want you to say, hey, I need to make a choice here, right? I need to do something here. I need to make a decision. And that's exactly what the call to action is all about. And that's what is the technique that we focus on our next session. Okay. All right. Anything else before they sound the bell so we can have the minute of mindfulness?
That's all, thầy.
Good. Any update on chị My? How's she doing?
I don't know. Yeah, she's actually right here.
Oh,
If
she's
you want.
working today. Hi,
Dạ,
con.
em chào thầy.
Ừ.
Con đang làm ở nhà. Hôm qua thì con đi lên Nhật Bản, nhưng mà lúc lái xe thì I find myself like really hard to, stay focused. So I told them maybe it's better if I can just work from home for 3 days, just
Good.
to, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Thank you so much for your message and for your support. I really appreciate it.
Okay. Good job, con. Just breathe and concentrate and be mindful of you have a lot of support. They send a lot of note to Lộc Uyển and also to my sư phụ ở Việt Nam to pray for Brian. Okay. So just know that you're not alone.
Okay.
All right. Thầy xa đây nào. Bye mấy con. Have a wonderful day and have a wonderful weekend. Okay.
Cảm ơn thầy.
Yeah.
Cảm ơn thầy.